Hello and welcome to another edition of Between the T's, the knowledge sharing program from Texas Bank and Trust. I'm your host, Karen Partee. Today's segment is sponsored by Omni Club. Texas Bank and Trust's uniquely designed bank club is tailor-made for our customers who enjoy the added benefit of financial and lifestyle seminars, special events, and escorted travel. Omni Club members receive exclusive access to educational lunchtime events featuring guest speakers, assistance from a dedicated TBT relationship officer who serves as a private banker, informative quarterly newsletters, and the ability to make new friends on bank-sponsored experience travel. For more information about how you can join Omni Club, stop by a local Texas Bank and Trust branch or visit us online at www.texasbankandtrust.com. Today we're touching on an important discussion that will be the subject of our next Omni Lunch and Learn coming up in early August regarding abuse of elderly individuals in our community that may affect their finances, identity, as well as their physical well-being. Joining us today to unpack this information is noted elder law attorney Kristen Ishihara. Kristen is a member of Ross & Schollmeyer Law Firm in Longview, Texas, and is one of the leading experts on elder abuse cases. She works tirelessly to raise awareness of elder abuse and highlight ways to challenge its impact. As I said, Kristen will be our featured speaker about elder abuse with our Omni Club members at our next Lunch and Learn on August 9th. That will be here in Longview. So I'd like to welcome Kristen. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Now, with the aging of today's population, there is the potential for the increase of elder abuse if we don't bring more recognition and attention to it. And yet, surprisingly, I don't think many of us realize the extent to which it's already become a critical social issue. So with that, I would like you to start by defining what elder abuse is, what it looks like, the common forms, and even the age at which someone might be considered falling under elder abuse.
Oh, absolutely. So elder abuse would be defined as, it's generally a series, but could just be one action, but a harmful act to a senior or something that would cause serious harm, has the potential to cause serious harm to a vulnerable senior. And we're going to define seniors as anyone that's age 60 and up. That's what the statistics apply to. Here in Texas, annually we have 4,500 reported cases. And of course, most cases go unreported because people are so unfamiliar with what it looks like. So something that would make you more vulnerable, of course, is increased age. As we get older, we're more susceptible to fraudulent actions and people that may be trying to take advantage of us. And also we find that women are generally targeted more than men and are generally more victimized than men are.
What don't we know about the seriousness of elder abuse?
Well, I think what we don't know is, first of all, I don't think we have a good, accurate picture of how prevalent it is. I see it every day in my job, but if you don't see it repetitively, you're not going to understand how serious it is. The national numbers show that $3 billion a year are taken from our seniors from financial fraud. So it is a very serious issue, and when you think about how that plays into seniors needing to pay for long-term care, providing for themselves during those last years, it's a very serious issue for not only that senior but for their family, for providing for them.
I would assume it's not recognized because those who are going through it or the victim may not report it or see it as abuse themselves.
That's exactly right. So the victim themselves often are what we would consider to be a willing participant. They have befriended the person that's frauding them, or perhaps it's a family member, and so they wouldn't consider themselves to be a victim, and so there's no way to report it if there isn't another individual that's looking out for them and providing support to that senior.
What are some common forms of elder abuse? How would we classify it?
Well, the three that I generally would refer to would be what people would commonly think of as physical abuse. And so that would include physical, even emotional abuse, and also neglect. Which is fairly common in the physical area because a lot of times either at a facility or at home an elder may not be receiving all the care that they need. So it wouldn't necessarily be a push or a hit or something like that, although that does happen. It could just be physical neglect, not getting the physical treatment that they need. Another one would be, of course, financial abuse. And so that can be either a family member or just somebody out there on the internet or on your phone or through the mail that's trying to take advantage of you financially. So anytime finances are used for someone else's best interest and not the senior, we would consider that to be financial abuse.
Okay.
And then there's, of course, legal abuse, which would be when a professional takes advantage of someone that's in a vulnerable state. And that could be attorneys, that could be bankers, that could be financial advisors that take advantage of them coming to them for trusted advice and saying, oh, you need XYZ, when really they don't need XYZ, they need something else.
In your practice, is there one form of abuse that you see more often?
Oh, financial abuse, very much so.
Okay.
A lot of clients that I see have either been a victim already of financial abuse, and so we're trying to pick up the pieces and help the family sort through that, or sometimes I'm able to play the role of that trusted professional and say, you don't need to participate in this. You know, what you've received in the mail is not a legitimate business opportunity. We need to look somewhere else.
Well, I know here at Texas Bank and Trust, our customers would be most interested in the financial scams. What are some that are perpetuated under elder abuse?
Well, so the most common one that I see is, I don't know if you've seen the movie Nebraska by any chance.
I have not.
You should. It's actually a really great movie. But in that, it's a story of a family, and the father figure is probably 75 or up. And he's received in the mail something that tells him he is a cash prize winner. He is going to receive $1 million if he goes and he claims his prize by such and such date. And so you and I probably get that in the mail, we throw it away. We don't even open the envelope, most likely. We're used to that. But the generation that we're talking about are not used to receiving that much junk mail. And that letter to them says, you are a winner, send $20 with your signature and claim your prize. So that's the most common one I see, where if they get something in the mail, they will respond by sending money. And once you are on that list, you'll get 6 to 12 of those a day.
Okay, and so you see a lot of that in your practice.
Absolutely.
And then we are certainly hyper aware of it here at the bank, you know, with the financial scams and frauds that we're trying to protect our customers from. So this is good information to continue to protect. Let's go back, because you had alluded to who would perpetuate the crime under elder abuse. Is there a profile of an abuser? You alluded to that it's someone that people know.
Yeah, generally, and in fact nationally, the statistics show that 90% of abuse is perpetrated by a family member.
90%?
Right, which is really shocking.
That is shocking.
36% of that 90 is an adult child.
And is there are there statistics that relate the age to the type of abuse?
No, it would. So the differences really have to do with how involved the child is. So physical abuse is going to be more with a family member that's providing care. If you're the primary caregiver and you aren't providing yourself the appropriate amount of respite away from being that primary caregiver, stress generally plays a factor when you are talking about physical abuse or neglect. So since financial is more common, that can be perpetrated by a family member who's just got your debit card or taken out a credit card in your name, or you know, talked you into buying them a car, or whatever it is. You don't have to be with them quite as much.
So how do we help? What are some warning signs that those on the outside are looking in on someone, how we could say, I think they might be a victim, or I feel like I might be a victim? What would be warning signs?
Sure. So what I generally tell professionals, so like bankers, financial advisors, attorneys, to look for is new relationships. So if you see an elder that's even a new marriage, gotten into a new relationship with a spouse, with a caregiver, with a new neighbor, if they've suddenly developed a new relationship with anyone that they're going around with a lot, that's a time when they're pretty vulnerable. And so our role in that can be looking for unusual things. You know, this person's demeanor has changed, their attitude is different when they're with this person, they're doing stranger things than we've seen them do in the past. And the appropriate thing to do for a professional is to call Adult Protective Services. You can report anonymously there if you think something is suspicious, and that agency will go out and investigate. I do advise, so for family members it's a little different because we don't have that confidentiality problem. But with family members, I really advise for them to be in close contact about the health of their senior. So if I notice that my mom is getting more advanced signs of dementia, I need to be closely talking to her brothers and sisters and my brothers and sisters so we're all on the same page. A lot of times we see if I'm the adult child at home or in closer to mom, I know what's happening, but my brother who lives in California doesn't see it every day, and so we don't communicate enough about how advanced their health is getting.
What specifically do you do within your practice if you found you have a client now that is a victim and you see that and now you're stepping in to help? What do you specifically do through your work?
It depends, of course, on the situation. A lot of times, recently we had one where a bank was involved and very helpful. In fact, An older woman had hired a groundskeeper who became very involved in her life and eventually ended up taking her to the bank.
Okay.
And so this individual instructed her banker to add this groundskeeper to all of her accounts.
Wow.
And so the banker was smart enough to recognize that there was a problem and froze those accounts, so the adult children were able to step in and we actually got a guardianship.
Okay.
So sometimes that's the right course of action. A lot of times, if possible, what we'd prefer to do is just be prepared ahead of time. So if I can meet with, or another attorney meet with that individual and have all of their documents lined up before they get to that stage, that's really the best protection that you can provide someone.
And at what age would you recommend families look into that?
Really, honestly, I tell anyone that's over 18 that they need to have things like a financial power of attorney, a medical power of attorney, your directive to physicians, and a HIPAA authorization.
So certainly the estate planning, the normal estate planning documents that we need to have in place.
Absolutely right.
That everyone should have in place. Excellent. Well, I want to wrap up here by you giving us a sense of how we can all protect ourselves or even our loved ones. So what are some steps that we can take to do preventative measures so we don't find ourselves in this position?
Sure. So my favorite two to give would be, one, making sure you have those important legal documents like we just spoke about, and then two, one great thing you can do to protect yourself is to make sure you surround yourself with some long-standing professional relationships.
Okay.
So like your banker, like your attorney, like your doctor, if you've had a long-standing relationship with them, they know your history. They know what changes you're going through. They know if you are acting stranger than you used to and giving money to people you shouldn't be giving to. So having those long-standing relationships are a great source of support.
And certainly what we encourage here at Texas Bank and Trust.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that I just want to make sure people do is to think through how they're going to provide care for themselves and their spouse.
Okay.
One thing that we commonly see is people, of course, we all think we're going to live for forever.
Right.
And especially if I have a spouse that I'm the primary caregiver for. So if I have been diagnosed with dementia, I have a life expectancy of 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
But my spouse, who is going to be my primary caregiver, they have a life expectancy of only 3 years.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
And that's because of the heightened stress. They're 24 hours a day caring for someone whose mind is fighting a disease, but their body's totally healthy.
Okay.
So that will be something that you need to think through. So a lot of times that spouse will assume they're going to live long enough to provide care to their other spouse, and that in fact is usually not the case. So we find that that spouse who is surviving with Alzheimer's or dementia is left without a primary caregiver, without having a lot of those important things in place, and that plan for who's going to step up and provide their medical care, their financial care, all of those important things.
Absolutely. Well, incredible information, very important, and I know you have a lot more to share, and that you will be doing so with our Omni Club members at the presentation on August 9th on here at the Hazel Hickey Community Room. So we're excited about that presentation that you'll have for us. If you would like to learn more about that specific presentation that Kristen Ishihara will be sharing with our Omni Club members, or joining Omni Club itself, please contact the Texas Bank and Trust Community Relations Department at the phone number on your screen, or you can contact us online at www.texasbankandtrust.com. That is all the time that we have for this segment of Between the T's, and of course we'd like to thank our special guest again, Elder Law Attorney Ms. Kristen Ishihara, for sharing her knowledge with us. She's from the Ross and Schulmeyer Law Firm here in Longview, and we really appreciate her joining us and sharing with us today. Be sure to check back with us next time for another segment of Between the T's for information that might impact you or your finances. Until then, remember always, knowledge is power when it's shared between the T's. I'm Karen Partee, and thank you for joining us.